When a lawyer wants to talk to you about gamification, I think you should listen. So Yaya Makori is our next speaker. He's a principal partner of Law Alliance, which he founded in 2008. He graduated from Obafemi Awolowo University in 1992 and was called to the Nigerian bar in 1994. He has also been a member of the Law Society of England and Wales since 2013. He has extensive experience in mergers and acquisitions, debt and equity financing, entertainment law, and commercial and corporate law. It generally advises company boards on corporate governance, tax and security matters. He is also a leading lawyer in Africa for the gaming and leisure industry. Yaya began his career as a legal advisor to ASO Savings and Loans PLC. Thereafter, he worked as the company secretary for First Alliance Pension and Benefits until he left to start Law Alliance. He's married with 2 children. Join me all in welcoming Yaya Makori to tell us about how we can transform learning through gamification. Welcome to the floor, Yaya Makori.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. It's actually my pleasure to be here today. I find myself privileged to speak on the topic gamification, a new way of inspiring learning. Just like you mentioned earlier on, I have a background in gaming. And what we are trying to do with this topic today is see how we can take some key elements of gaming to transform or to implement in an education background. So let's just start today with by, by the way, I don't have any presentation. I thought they said it was a fireside chat, so I'm just going to just talk you through my topic today. But let's just start with understanding what gaming is or gamification is. Let's start with gaming or games. So the Google defines gaming as any activity that amuses or increases fun. That's what we all know as games. Of course, we can extend it to talk about physical games, the kind of physical games we take, but a game can be either physical, mental, or whatever it is. That's what we are familiar with. And then there's what you also call gaming. So gaming basically is in 2 sides. There's the gambling side of gaming, which is a sports betting, Baba Ijebu, which you're all familiar with. Then there's the video games. Some of us are aware of FIFA games, Sega, if you're as old as I am. So that's an extraction of games called gaming. Then we go to gamification. And what is gamification all about? Gamification is basically about taking the key elements that drive gaming and putting in a different environment entirely in order to get some desired result. Again, for some of you who play games, and I think all of us do play some sort of games, either on our phones or whether it's video games or whatever it is. But most of us are aware of Candy Crush. And at one point, Candy Crush was the biggest thing to happen in the gaming, in the video gaming industry. And let me just tell you a bit about what Candy Crush is set to do to people or to its players. It says Candy Crush is basic enough for a preschooler. Just match 3 candies of the same color. Initially, the game allows us to win and pass levels with ease, giving a strong sense of satisfaction. So just matching 3 identical colors or items gives us a strong sense of satisfaction. These accomplishments are experienced as mini rewards in our brain. And I think, so this Candy Crush is called social games in the sense that you're not actually gambling. There's no real money being spent, at least at the initial level. I've never played it before, so I don't know exactly how that plays out. But then this is also called social games. And social games alone is being set to give us a strong sense of satisfaction for just being able to match either motifs or clothes or colors. And so that's what we want to do today, to look at how this same feeling can be elicited from a learning environment. But let's just start from talking about childhood. When I was young in nursery school, they used to reward us with stars. So the teachers had a way of sticking stars to our books whenever we did well, either in our school work or in some kind of activity, we were rewarded with stars. And for us, that was big because that was some kind of endorsement from the teacher, and also was kind of form of social recognition from our peers. So 40 years later or 30 years later, my kids still come back from school and they show me badges as well from their own school. So I guess gamification in education has been there for quite a while. But of course, it was applied in a very, very manual way. That's one. Secondly, I think that also because of the amount of activity required to manually drive this process, people never took it as a strategy. Of course, years down the line, that has changed. But if gamification had been applied even at our elementary schools, then you're wondering why 30, 40 years down the line, people have not really applied it as a strategy in the dispensation of education in this country or globally. Let me say a couple of reasons why I think there's a need for gamification to be brought, and some of them are very compelling. Let's take them one by one. One of the items is the issue of e-learning, or let's just say e-learning, yeah. And let's talk about even COVID, what COVID has done to fast track this process. Up until 4 months to 5 months ago, I'm sure, until about recently, of course, I'm sure most of us who have kids had to witness or supervise our kids learning online. So obviously, things have fast tracked that process. Until now, it was a manual process. But now most of us have had to learn some of these key tools for tutelage and for education. Another thing as well is also distraction, because we're in a media-based environment now, there's so much distraction. And then you need some form of monitoring, how to monitor your children or to monitor the students or keep track of what they're doing, or to even get them committed to learning in an online-based environment. Another thing is also the is skills. I mean, we are in an era now whereby the more skills you have, the better for you. So beyond just getting your certification, you want to acquire more skills. And then, of course, for people who are doing what they either are doing it either leisurely or casually, not by compulsion, they most likely will need something that will encourage them, that will drive them, that will enable whoever's teaching them to monitor them. And another reason, again, why there's a need for gamification is skills, technology. Now we are moving fully into an e-learning environment. The technology is readily available. Everything is automated. So it helps with our productivity as well. So there are several other reasons which you can prefer for having gamification as a tool in education. But I think I've named some of the key issues. So what will gamification in education look like in terms of definition? So basically, is taking all those tools, those mechanisms from games, from gaming, and implementing them in an education environment. The techniques, the thought process, the mechanics, the reward system, and see how it plays out. Many other industries before education have actually applied this successfully. If you look at the leisure entertainment industry, especially in the travel industry, when we talk about the loyalty program, that's also an aspect of gamification playing out there. You buy your tickets, you get points. You stay in a hotel, you get points. You buy items, you get points. That's all part of the gamification process. And like we said earlier on, this has been implemented ignorantly in the education system without any strategy, without looking at the bigger picture. And we said earlier on that just getting those points from playing Candy Crush basically elicits some kind of satisfaction from us. And so why are we, why shouldn't we be looking at making that a key priority in our strategy, on our education strategy? There are a couple of things, of course, you need to have in place before you can implement that kind of strategy. But first of all, just to add to put in perspective, the whole essence of gamification in education is to ensure collaboration, motivation, competition, ensure that our goals or team goals are actually, we drive team activity with gamification, of course, and of course to promote learning, skills acquisition, encourage people. So in gaming, those are in gamification and education, those are things you're looking to achieve. And what environment, what elements do we need to have, first of all, in able to successfully implement that? We need to look at the users. So first of all, if you're looking at education, we need to look at either it's going to be users in a single class or in a particular school or across different faculties. Basically, the target audience will be students, but they must have something in common. Most likely studying the same course or being in the same class or in the same faculty. That's one. Two, the challenges. Is there a challenge you want to address? Is there a task that you want to achieve, either corporately or collaboratively or individually but within a group? Another thing is points. Is there a way we can come up with a point system, a way of rewarding people, a way of rewarding them with that satisfaction we spoke about earlier on? Fourthly is levels. Are we able to increase their level from this level to the next level? You have passed this level of education, of skill acquisition, maybe you can promote it to the next level. Thirdly is badges. Are we able to give them badges? Badges of honor. Like I told you, when my kids were getting stars, I was getting stars when I was in nursery school. Are you able to compensate them like that as well? And then are we able to rank them? That's like a leaderboard, if you have a leaderboard scenario. So these are the key elements we look at before we can implement gamification in education. So let's look at how that will happen or what it looks like, again, like in the practical situation. So first of all, users. We are very clear and we are aware now that almost every app you log on to, there's a provision for avatar. An avatar allows you to show your face. It allows people to recognize you, whether it's on WhatsApp, whatever it is, but any kind of technology-driven app or process now allows you to have an avatar or face or some kind of way to brand yourself, your look. So that's one part of it. Another is the issue of visibility of students' progress. Are we able to, on that platform, monitor what every single student is doing? Their assignments, they have ticked up their assignments, they have reached so and so level of the engagement. Are we able to do that? That is what we also try to use gamification for, to ensure that we can monitor our teams, our groups, especially if they're working in a collaborative effort. Another thing is that we can look at as well, we have implemented in terms of some of the learning management systems is quizzes. Are we able to push out quizzes to different students for them to read, where there are quizzes that have to do with assignments, for them to read, answer them, and we can track it. Another thing is levels. Are we able to move them from one level of efficiency to another level, from one level of grading to another level of grading, and then feedback. Are we able to get instant feedback? Also, even the feedback is a way, and is a process or is a way for us to also use some of the gamification tools to implement. So I just need to add as well that I've reeled out some of these normal tools, but these tools do not apply across board. It depends on exactly what you want to achieve. And those are the questions we need to ask ourselves. Is the whole idea is to ensure we monitor the students? Or is it to ensure that there's a collaborative effort towards a given task? Or is it just for them to add skills? I know these things are also important in research-based institutions, whereby groups of people work, especially in scientific science departments, where different people are working towards a given object or a given goal. So these are things we need to look at. Another thing we mentioned earlier. So we need to, first of all, establish exactly what we want to achieve. What we want to achieve will determine exactly what tools we use. Online already, there are lots of tools available for gamification, and lots of people are using them. Some of those tools, if any of you is involved in learning languages, you probably have used Duolingo. That is an app that's set up and based primarily on gamification. There's what they call Hero, there's Class Dojo, there's Go Book, there's Batch OS, there's Mozilla badges, open badges, where it allows you to actually even download it onto your platform, depending on what the IT requirements are, or the API are, for you to implement that amongst your students. So we need to know that there's a couple of learning management systems that have already implemented that. So maybe we just look at one of them to come into, so that we can actually apply it into our own scenario and see how that has played out. One popular learning LMS or learning management system is called Moodle. So Moodle, actually, of course, the moment you register or the moment you sign up into this course, into the course, you have your avatar there. It allows you to, and there's a progress bar. You can see how everybody is progressing in terms of the assigned task or the goal or the teamwork. You can see a progress task bar for you to progress, to monitor that. You can visualize it, all the strengths, you can monitor everything that all the strengths are doing. Another thing is the levels, level up. Once you pass one level, you're able to move to the next level of engagement. Remember we said earlier on that in gamification, it's not really about some kind of payment. At the end of the day, it's really motivating people, monitoring people, getting people to be excited to work or to learn, especially in the circumstances in which we find ourselves in, And another thing is the feedback system. Another thing, like I mentioned again in Moodle, which all of you can Google and check, is the badges. There's also a badge system, and badges are like rewards. They are recognition. Possibly you could use those badges for them to trade it in for some other benefit, not necessarily money, because once you put money into it, that's gambling, but some other benefit. So the badge system is being implemented in Moodle. The leaderboard as well. We know who is at the top of the assignment, who has done the most within the given timeline, who has achieved the most within the given, who is at the top, who at the bottom. And of course, what happens is because now all of you, or the whole team is collectively involved in monitoring what happens. We find that gamification inspires engagement, like I said earlier on, interaction, teamwork, and of course, collaborative efforts, and in some cases, competition. I will simply round up my small talk and basically state that e-learning is suitable and easy and effective integration of gamification. So because of e-learning, the availability of e-learning now and the affordability and even the necessity of it, gamification is easily implementable. Gaming techniques and mechanisms can be implemented to the learning process as activities which purpose is to achieve certain learning objectives, increase learners' motivation to complete them, engage students in a friendly, competitive environment with other learners. Gamification is an effective approach to make positive change in students' behavior, attitude towards learning to improve their motivation and engagement. The results of the change have bilateral nature. They can affect students' results and understanding of the educational content and create conditions for an effective learning process. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. McCrory. That was quite insightful. If you want to increase collaboration, teamwork, if you want your people to actively engage, you want to actively engage your workforce, gamification is the way to go, especially in learning and development. We have a couple of questions here. I think we can take two conveniently. So I'll quickly go to the first question. Someone said, how can gamification help to achieve business goals? So how do we connect gamification to the goals of the organization?
Well, again, like I said earlier on, it's all about, it depends on, first of all, you need to understand what you want to achieve. Is it a given task that's so important to the organization or to the business? Or is it just for you to monitor every staff to ensure they're doing what they're meant to do? Or is it just because you want them to engage in terms of team building? That would determine how that works out. But assuming the whole idea is towards arriving at a product for the benefit of the organization, then it's pretty simple. This reward system will help in different ways. And we have mentioned a couple of them. One, because you have to understand how this works out in this scenario. It's really about the social appreciation from your peers. It's a form of competition as well. It's a form of recognition, you know? And like the example of the Candy Crush, there was no real value given to them. It was just inner satisfaction. And to a certain extent, there's an element of addiction in these things. Even the social interaction, the social respect we get has an addictive element to it. So we can look at the badge system, giving them a certain number of badges as recognition, the same way you give staff of the week or staff of the year. Sometimes there's no real financial benefit to it, but just having that what do you call it, framed and put in the hallway makes a big difference, encourages people because people want to be recognized. It's an innate human need to be recognized for our effort. So I think depending on what the objective is, that's easily, I mean, there are many tools you can implement, depending on the business, the environment, and yeah, what you want to achieve, like I said.
Thank you very much. If I can sum what you said up, that means you need to sit down and identify what you want to achieve before coming up with an appropriate gamification exercise. You must have a goal in mind. You don't just come up with a game for the sake of it. All right. Another question is gamification different from the reward system in organizations? So someone said we give bonuses, to employees. I mean, is this different? What's the link?
Well, there's a thin line, like I said, there's a thin line because the reward system, ordinarily speaking, in gamification, is not any payout. It's using those key elements that happens in the game or in a gaming scenario to implement in a non-gaming scenario. You understand? So the reward system, once it goes into money, cash, then I think it's gone past what you're talking about, because in an education scenario, which is what you're talking about, there's no cash going out there. It's really just recognition. It's really just to motivate people. It's really just to get people to be competitive, to be collaborative, more than anything else. And there's nothing wrong if eventually, possibly you can look at it that, okay, the badges or those leaderboards, you can now cash out after a certain given point. That is still another extension to it, especially in an organization. But in a school scenario, which is what I touched on, cash definitely does not apply in that situation. But I can see that playing out in a corporate organization.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Mekori. So what we are saying here is it's not about the money, it's about increasing the rate of collaboration, increasing the rate of teamwork, and getting in the buzz within our workforce, bringing in some excitement, reward and recognition, which goes beyond money. Thank you very much, Mr. Mekori. It has indeed been insightful, new learnings for us all in activating and engaging our workforce.